The year was 1932. The setting, the scorched, unforgiving outback of Western Australia. But this isn't a story of bushfires or droughts. It is a chronicle of a localized apocalypse, a feathered fever dream that began with a single, fateful decision. Imagine, if you will, the dust-choked horizon flickering under a malevolent sun, where the silence is broken not by the wind, but by the rhythmic, thundering heartbeat of 20,000 prehistoric shadows. These were not men, they were emus 6-foot-tall engines of biological spite, their eyes gleaming with an ancient, vacant hunger. To the returning veterans of the Great War, now humble farmers, these birds were a plague of biblical proportions, a living tide of beak and claw descending upon their precious wheat fields. The government's solution was simple, elegant, and in hindsight utterly insane. They sent in the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery. It seemed like a good idea at the time, a handful of men, to Lewis automatic machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition against a flightless bird. They expected a slaughter. They expected a quick victory. What they found instead was a nightmare that defied the laws of ballistics and the limits of human ego. The air in the barracks was thick with the scent of gun, oil, and misplaced confidence, as Major G.P.W. Meredith polished his binoculars, peering into the shimmering haze where the 1st Battalion of birds waited. These weren't just animals. They were tactical geniuses draped in shaggy brown camouflage. The plan was to herd them into a killing zone, a bottleneck of lead and fury. But as the first trigger was squeezed, the world went cold. The rat-tat-tat of the Lewis gun, a sound that had mowed down infantry in the trenches of Europe, seemed to vanish into the vast, absorbing silence of the scrub. The emus didn't panic. They didn't flee in a mindless heap. They split. With a synchronized, eerie precision that suggested a hive mind born of some forgotten occult ritual, the birds divided into small groups led by tall, dark-plumed leaders who stood sentinel while their kin dodged the spray of bullets with the grace of shadow puppets. The lead whistled through the air, hitting nothing but the ghosts of the outback. It was as if the birds were made of smoke, or perhaps, as the shivering gunners began to whisper, they were simply bulletproof. The experiment had begun, and the gods of irony were already laughing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, skeletal shadows across the red earth, the soldiers realized they weren't fighting a pest. They were fighting a phantom. The Lewis guns, designed to halt the advance of empires, began to jam, choked by the very dust the emus kicked up in their mocking retreat. Major Meredith's reports home began to take on a surreal, almost feverish quality. He marveled at the birds' invulnerability, noting with a shudder that even when riddled with lead, these feathered titans continued to run, driven by a biological stubbornness that felt deeply unnatural. One bird was reportedly hit by 5 bullets and simply kept sprinting, its black eyes fixed on the distance like a possessed machine. It wasn't just a military failure, it was a cosmic joke played by the Australian wilderness. The dark humor of the situation wasn't lost on the public, who watched from the safety of the cities as the pride of the Royal Artillery was outmaneuvered by a creature that couldn't even fly. It was a slapstick horror movie where the monster was a giant bird and the victim was human arrogance. By the time the government finally signaled the retreat, the tally was staggering. Thousands of rounds had been spent, yet the enemy remained largely unscathed, standing victoriously amidst the ruined wheat, their guttural drumming calls sounding like low, rhythmic laughter in the dark. The soldiers packed their crates in a silence heavy with the realization that they had been humbled by the prehistoric. The experiment was over, but the legend of the bulletproof bird had been etched into the folklore of the outback, a cautionary tale for any soul brave or foolish enough to think they can dictate terms to nature. The Great Emu War remains a bizarre stain on the tapestry of history, a moment when the world briefly tilted on its axis and the flightless reigned supreme. We look back now and chuckle at the absurdity, but in the dead of night when the wind howls across the plains and the shadows of the scrub move just a little too fast, one can't help but wonder, are they still out there waiting for the next good idea? If you've enjoyed this descent into the feathered madness of the Australian outback, don't let the mystery end here. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join our circle of the curious, ensuring you never miss a journey into the world's most bizarre and chilling histories. We're dying to hear your thoughts, so creep down to the comments and tell us, do you think the Emu experiment was a mere tactical blunder? Or is there something truly supernatural about those bulletproof birds? If this tale of dark humor and prehistoric defiance gripped you, give that like button a tap to help our channel grow. And share this video with someone who needs a reminder that nature always has the last laugh.